In today's lesson, we introduce the idea of powers. A power is just another name for an exponential expression. So we want to make sure that we have the proper terminology when we talk about a power. So an example of a power would be 3 to the fourth. So as I said, a power is just another name for an exponential expression. A power is just another name for an exponential expression. So when I look at 3 to the fourth, this entire thing is an example of a power. Within this power, there are two numbers. As you can see, there's the big number, and that big number is the 3. That's called the base. And the small number is called the exponent. So we read this as 3 to the fourth power. So in the example of x to the sixth, the x is the base. The 6 is the exponent. And read collectively, x to the sixth, that is referred to as a power, otherwise known as an exponential expression. Okay, so we'll use exponential expression and power interchangeably, but we'll typically use the word power. Now, what we should know about powers is that they are used as a simplified way of replacing repeated multiplication. And you might know that already. So just as we have multiplication as a way of simplifying repeated addition, we have powers using exponents as a way of writing repeated multiplication. When we write a power in an unsimplified way or a non-simplified way, we call that a product. That's really important to know. And a product, we should know, just is another word, right? The word product is just another word for multiplying. So as an example, let's go back here. If I have a power of 3 to the fourth, then my product, or an example of that as a product, would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Now notice, and we want to be careful about how we describe what's going on with this power. This is not saying that we're multiplying 3 4 times. Because if we were doing that, I would see, if I took that literally, I would see that I would be multiplying 3, 1, 2, 3, and one more time 4 times, meaning I would see 4 multiplication signs, but as a result of that, I would see 1 more than that for the number of bases. So in this case, I would see 5 bases, and that's not what's going on. What's really going on with the power is I am taking 4 of these bases. I am taking 4 of these 3's and multiplying them together. So to go back again, just to make sure we clearly understand, a power like x to the sixth would be rewritten as a product of 6 x's multiplied. So there's 1x times a second times a third times a fourth times a fifth times one more, 6. So the exponent tells us that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these bases being multiplied together. So the power is a simplified way, made up of a base, the big number, being repeatedly multiplied, and the exponent telling us how many of those bases are being repeatedly multiplied. The product is the non-simplified way of writing it, the inefficient way of writing it. So what we can move on to next is beginning to see that there are some rules or some properties that will allow us to simplify expressions that include powers. So we're going to start off with what we call the product of powers rule. The product meaning the multiplying of powers. And here's an example. -2, and by the way, this is really important. -2 is my base. That's what's repeatedly multiplied. I know it's my base because it's in parentheses. Is being raised to the 4th power, is being multiplied by another -2 as a base raised to the 2nd power. So let's think about what -2 to the 4th power looks like on its own. That would look like -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. So that is -2 to the 4th power. And we'd be multiplying it by -2 times -2 more, because that is -2 to the 2nd power. Now notice what we have here. We have a string of the same bases being multiplied together. How many of those do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 to go along with the 4 there, and another 2 to go along with the 2 for the exponent there. So we have a total of 6. So what do we have in a simplified manner? Instead of the product of -2 times -2 times -2 times -2 times -2 times -2, we have in the simplified form the power of -2 raised to the 6th power. So the way we will simplify this is we will write it as a final result of -2, that's our base, to the 6th power. So if I were to do that again, if I wanted to write this as a product for y to the 5th, I would have y times y times y times y times y. That would be y to the 5th. And I'd have to multiply it by y times y times y times y times y. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'd have to multiply it by y to the 8th more. And that would give me, let's see, that would give me y to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now what you might notice, and what you might have already picked up on, is that the 13 is really just a result of the exponent of 5 plus the exponent of 8. So by the time we're done, we don't have to write out these products. We can, it seems like we have a rule here where we can just say that when we multiply powers, as long as the bases are the same, we can keep the base and we can just simply add the exponents. So that gives me y to the 13th. And it seems to me that that was what would have happened back here. If we had gone back to this, it was -2, and it was to the 4 plus 2. That gave us the 6. So by the time we're all done, we don't need to write out the repeated multiplication. We seem to have a new rule that demonstrates for us how to quickly simplify. So write in your own words what's going on for us to simplify multiplying these powers together. And you can see that you don't have to write it all out. You can see that when we multiply powers with the same base, that we keep the base. And what I want you to do is to describe what you do with the exponents. Now, what I want you to do is to quickly use that rule and finish these last 3 problems. So we'll do the first one together. So we'll see that this is really nothing more than my base of 9 with the exponents of 8. Now don't forget there's a 1 here. It's invisible to us, plus 1 plus 2. So that's going to give us a simplified answer of 9 to the 13th. If I could ask you to repeat those last 2, we'll check in and do more practice in class. So we should be beginning to see there is a nice simple process here where to simplify powers that are being multiplied, what we call a product of powers rule, we're going to keep the base and add the exponents. We're going to keep the base and add the exponents. Okay, so finish those up and we'll investigate more in class.